the DEA Chief of Operations, Mr. Tony Williams.
Good evening. It's good to be back in Los Angeles and out of D.C. a little bit, so thank you for the reprieve. Thank you, Jason, for your introduction and for being the master of ceremonies as we recognize Michael Mann with the DEA Educational Foundation Lifetime Achievement Award. It's an honor to be here tonight on behalf of the incredible people of DEA. Today and every day, they are doing important work of keeping Americans safe from those who traffic in drugs. When you extended to me the privilege to be here tonight, you honored them. No matter where they are, serving a narcotic search warrant in Los Angeles County, working with our brave partners in Mexico and Colombia, or perhaps working in rural West Virginia with the DEA task force, on behalf of all of them, thank you. Like building a case, I know events like these don't happen by themselves. It takes a team. It takes a tremendous amount of work. So I'd like to thank all of the wonderful organizers and sponsors and supporters who came together tonight to make this a success. This includes those who lead the DEA Educational Foundation and its chairman, Billy Alden. What they do supports the important work of DEA, and thank you for having our back. There are so many friends of DEA here today, and I know I'm going to miss a few, but I'll be remiss if I did not mention the great performers we just saw from Culture Shock and the DEA Youth Dance Program. It is always a pleasure to see young members of these outstanding programs at events like this. I'd like to also recognize our incredible law enforcement partners, such as the Los Angeles Police Department, who presented our national colors. We also have two former administrators here, Judge Robert Bonner and Micheal Lenhart. Ms. Lenhart not only served as my direct boss during my time in Los Angeles, which is her baby, trust me, she has also been a mentor of mine for many years. And the incredible co-chairs and sponsors, along with all of those who are here because you believe, as I do, in the great work of the DEA Educational Foundation. Thank you for your support. The work of drug law enforcement is anchored in reality. The actions we take have real consequences. In our world, the guns and bad guys are real, and so are the drugs. Tragically, people die. Traffickers torture and kill their rivals. Drug production factories blow up, and people overdose in their homes or in alleys or in their vehicles while their children sit in the back seat. This reality does not often mesh well with clean lines between good and evil and right and wrong that so many here in Hollywood and in the mainstream media portray in their stories. These cases are usually much more complex, and the facts are not as straightforward as many expect. As a result, the leaders of DEA, including myself, are often hesitant to work with some proposals and producers who approach us. Trust does not come easy in our line of work. We learn early on that it's not in your best interest, our best interest, to be in the limelight because it doesn't advance your case, and that it's best to keep your circle of trust very small. But Michael has been an honest broker, a straight shooter, who has taken the time to learn what we really do, and who has respect for those who put themselves in harm's way to protect our citizens and our communities. He has taken time to get to know us, our culture, our people, our values. He and a few others such as Vince Gilligan, have earned the trust that is not freely or easily given. They take what we do seriously, and they don't whitewash the dangers faced by the men and women of DEA. There are few answers to the enormous, real problem of drug trafficking and addiction. The bad guys don't always wear black. Sometimes, as you may have read recently in the news, the bad guys wear white lab coats. And the good guys don't always win. But what is always true is that there are consequences for the actions we and they take. Like Micheal, we at DEA now have been doing this for decades. I've been with DEA for nearly 30 years. For all that time and longer, we've been putting traffickers behind bars, and Micheal has been a careful observer of what we do, creating stories on both the big and small screen. While growing up in Philadelphia, I watched Starsky and Hutch and Miami Vice and Police Story. They were different, yes. Some of the weapons and tactics were, shall we say, not regulation. But Micheal and his team clearly made an effort to show those of us who carry a badge as humans, whose mission is honorable, and whose work is important. Micheal's work changed how others think about us in a way many others in the industry could have, but few did. He helped change how we perceive ourselves. And the fact is, by changing how others think about what we do and about how we think of ourselves, he actually changed the course of DEA. That's because his work inspired many Americans to join DEA. And many of your shows, such as Drug Wars and the Camarena Story, were cited as inspirations by many recruits and agents alike, some of whom are in this room, including myself. It is also one of the reasons why, as serving as a special agent in charge of the Los Angeles Field Division, a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to meet Micheal Mann for the first time at a similar event here for Vince Gilligan and shake his hand and show my appreciation for his support for DEA. And it is why it is such a privilege to honor you tonight. We at DEA were and continue to be inspired by the characters you created, often based on real events, stories, and people. People like Steve Bauer, who you, with the help of Elaine Shannon and retired special agent John Marcello, who's also here, made Kiki's story come to life for millions. The spirit of that story live on in many ways, including in the Red Ribbon Campaign, which is happening now and which takes place every year all around the country during the last week in October. It is a week when millions of Americans remember the courage and sacrifice of Kiki and of those who have given their lives enforcing our drug laws. We honor them by educating and informing the public about the dangers of drugs while telling their stories. This is what the DEA Educational Foundation does, by fighting drugs through education. And it is what Micheal has done in large measure in many of his productions for over 50 years, not just for DEA, but for the law enforcement profession of which we are a part. I'm afraid to say that drug abuse and drug traffickers continue to be major challenges to communities across the globe. Last year, more Americans died of drugs than ever before. And that number is growing faster than at any rate in DEA's history. There is a pain that is spreading across the country, a pain that demands to be felt. So while Micheal is receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award tonight, there will be plenty more stories that need to be told. And I can't think of anyone better qualified to tell those stories than Micheal Mann. In fact, many things Micheal has visited in his work over the years are coming back. It seems that so much of what was old is new again. As an example, 40 years ago, when Micheal was writing Bronx and Police Story, opioids and heroin was the #1 drug threat. Now they are again. With more than 30,000 deaths in America from opioids last year. 20 years ago, Micheal dramatically revealed the story behind Big Tobacco in The Insider. Today, Big Pharma and Big Marijuana are going down similar paths, according to major stories in the headlines today. And more than 25 years ago, you told the story of Kiki, of his murder, including what seemed to be the final outcome of those who were responsible. Yet today, Rafael Caro Quintero is back on the run. And the leader of the biggest Mexican cartel, Chapo Guzman, is in an American prison from which he would not escape, awaiting trial in an American court where he will receive justice. But some things do not change. The determination of traffickers to make money off of deadly drugs, their willingness to use violence to remain in power, and the passion and commitment of the people of DEA to stop them. These have been constants across my career enforcing the law and of Micheal's career telling stories that demand to be told. Another factor that has been constant across time is the admiration and respect we have felt you had for us and for which we have for you, which is why we are here recognizing you formally tonight. Micheal, if you promise to continue writing, producing, and directing, we at DEA promise to continue to make cases that inspire you. On behalf of everyone at DEA, I want to thank you, and as always, the DEA Educational Foundation for supporting our mission, not just today, but every day. Thank you very much.